Hello and welcome to the August 2019 Sunshine Summit. My name is Heather and I am your host. I bring to you a week of live streams this week celebrating connections. This is day 4. We've been going live for the past 3 days and we've got a couple more sessions to come. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate everybody who is here with us in the live chat. It is a live event, but if you can't catch it live, do go ahead and check them out afterwards and leave any comments and stuff you have for us underneath the video there. Want to say hi to Adam, to Steph, to Kaylee, and Paul and Derek. Some of the names that I recognize in the chat. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to the Sunshine Summit today, Chris and Karrington. Hey, guys. How you going?
I'm good. How about yourself?
That's good. Glad that you're both here.
Yeah, this is us trying not to talk over each other.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I do want to say, just before we get started, we were going to have Roger join us from Gamerheads podcast, and unfortunately he couldn't make it today, but I hope that everything is going well for him or it gets better soon, and look forward to hearing from him in the future. But thank you, Karrington and Chris, for being here for the Sunshine Summit today. We've got...
Anytime. Thanks for asking.
Yay. We've got Exo and X-Men in the chat, and... Does it furious you, Karrington?
That's me. Yeah. Hey. I didn't do my signature hello.
Xander, is that? It's Xander. Hi, Xander. Welcome.
Yep.
Today we're going to be talking about some of the connections that you guys have made. Karrington, you are one of the co-hosts of the Real Dudes podcast, and Chris, you host Play Comics. And there's a lot that we're going to cover today. I want to first start off with how the two of you connected with each other, if you can. Do you want to go first, Chris?
So right when I was really getting going with the show, Roger came along and was like, hey, here's this Twitter retweet group we're part of, a bunch of cool video game shows. You should come join up with us. And I did. And, there's all these cool people there. There's Roger, there's everybody that Karrington has. He has like 20 co-hosts, so I can't remember who they all are.
Yeah.
A bunch of other cool shows there, and I just got lucky that they saw what I was doing and liked it and wanted me to go be a part of it.
Yeah. Well, Karrington is here on the Sunshine Summit thanks to you, Chris, because you connected us together. So thank you for that. And Karrington, you are one of the co-hosts, as we said, of the Real Dudes, and apparently you have 20 co-hosts. So would you be able to share a little bit about who is on the show with you?
Sure. So the reason why we have so many co-hosts, because we started with 4. It was myself, Kyle, who's still on the show, and there was also Jake and Caleb, who were also on the show. So Jake and Caleb left at some point, and then we brought on Cody, my brother-in-law Andrew, and then my brother Donovan. So that's the current lineup: is myself, Kyle, Cody, Andrew, and Donovan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have quite a few now, and then we tend to have guests on as well from time to time, like Chris.
Cool. I saw that in there. So was Roger and Chris Karrington, were you involved in the crossplay compatible? Is that the retweet group? Is that what it was called under the umbrella?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's correct. So I think at the time, I can't even remember the year. It's probably late 2016, early 2017, something like that. And we were looking for just shows to kind of just connect with that were smaller like we were. And we ended up getting in touch with Roger at Gamerheads podcast, and they were just a cool, fun group. And we liked their show, like their vibe. And then we just had this idea of like, maybe we should just get like a group of shows together to try and just connect with each other and see what happens. And Roger was actually the one who discovered Chris. And so once Chris got brought in, I liked the show that he had, and I've been on a show several times since.
I hear quite a few times.
I think we're up to 6 now, something like that.
That sounds about right, yeah.
That is awesome. I love that the collaboration that happens across that and how you found each other and a group of people to support others in the space where you were, because it's always good to feel a part of something and to help share things around and have that kind of community together, and that's what that sounds like. The Real Dudes podcast started in about 2016 as well, so it's been going for a while now.
Yeah, that's correct. So it even technically, I guess you could say it started before then in like 2015. Like the idea of it had been around for quite some time. And we like the first episode was released in, I want to say April of 2016. So it did take some time before we actually got up and going, but the idea was around since like 2015 though.
That's cool. And for anyone who doesn't know, Chris actually joined us for another Sunshine Summit. He's been on the Sunshine Summit before, and he was joined by his wonderful wife, Kaylee, who happened to be in the chat. I'm not sure if she's still there, but hello to Kaylee if she is. And so we've got to hear a little bit of your story already, Chris, on making connections, but you've done an amazing job of sort of bringing people onto your show as well, and sharing the connection stories between the games and the comics. And everyone's got kind of their own different take on gaming or comics or what have you, and I love what both of you are doing. One of the highlights that I noticed recently was that Real Dudes was doing like a July extravaganza, so there was the aim of, yes, I think, putting out an episode every day in July.
Yes, and that was quite the task. I think we only skipped maybe 4 or 5 days, but getting 25 out of 31 was, I think, was still an accomplishment.
That's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, that's something I would never even try to do.
It was a lot of fun because I feel like it helped just me in general. For me, I can only speak to me personally, but I think it helped me become like a better speaker, and also just kind of when it comes to, I don't know, trying to make things drag along a little bit, because when you're by yourself, you can't like play off of anybody, you can't riff off of anybody. It's all just one-on-one, just yourself, and it was kind of fun. It was different, and it was a challenge as well. So, but yeah, they're all out there. You can go on our webpage and see all of the episodes right there if you want to just go right to them.
So did each of you participate in that, or was it just all of you did your own episodes for that July extravaganza, or how did that work out?
So what we ended up doing was, it was mostly only me and Kyle did them. Okay. We gave everyone else kind of a break, so to speak. And so I had a list of topics I had been wanting to talk about anyway on the show. So it was a chance for me to just kind of speak on things that were either on my mind, that interested me, that I couldn't fit quite into an episode or something like that. And Kyle did the same as well. So it was just, and we talked about it, like say, hey, I'm releasing an episode today. We're like, cool, I got tomorrow. Like we did kind of schedule ahead of time like that as well. So we didn't go over each other in any way.
Cool. Steph in the chat said that she's going to try and do this in November with National Podcast Post Month. So try and do a podcast episode each month, day of the month for that, because NaNoWriMo is the writing version and the podcast post month is for doing podcast episodes each day, which is very cool. Apparently, Nix says hi. That's one of your cats, Chris.
She is the goodest girl.
That's the one that had the surgery, right?
Yeah, that's the one that has 3 legs now.
Yeah, tripod kitty. And that is an important story in and of itself. And while we're on that one, you had some amazing connections come through, Chris, to help support you and Kaylee through that and to get her the surgery.
Yeah, okay, so Kaylee and I, we were going to get the surgery anyway. From what the vet told us without actually telling us, because they didn't want to say it, she had a big old tumor on her leg from a vaccine.
Okay.
And just the vaccine reacting to stuff because medicine is fun. And so we're sitting there and, the best option we have from where it is to just get her whole leg amputated. Because they couldn't guarantee that they'd get it all out. And it's so close to that hip joint anyway. You just might as well leave them with nothing instead of a little nub.
Huh.
So I put up a GoFundMe. Just like, okay, we'll get a little bit, because it was like $1,300 for this surgery. Yeah, but it's worth it because she really is the goodest girl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just all of a sudden, I was sitting there bored at work one day. I'm like, okay, I'll go ahead and start this. Honestly, part of the reason was because, okay, here's something that'll take up 10 minutes of my time. I'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, here's a few $100s that have come in from people. And here's people that told me that they wish they could have donated it, but they couldn't. But they kept sending me pictures of their 3-legged cats just so we could see that, everything was going to be fine when it was all done. And after the first day, we were about halfway there.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. It's hard to ask for help too, though, in a way, and it's amazing that you put it out there.
Pretty much all the way there.
Sorry.
It really is. I almost felt selfish about it, but I mean, part of having connections is getting them to be able to help you out with things when you need it.
Yeah.
And then right at the end, there was a top secret person who was just like, oh, okay, here's some $500, finish it off.
Wow. That's incredible.
I mean, I was sitting right here when I saw that. And, 10 minutes later, when I could finally get up and believe it, I still didn't really believe it.
Yeah. Xander in the chat said, yes, proud of you for asking. Also said, Miss Not Quite Hyde Park has several 3-legged cat photos.
That was most of the ones that I saw.
Okay, cool. And Kaylee said that she told the vet about how we got it funded, and she and the receptionist both about cried. Oh, yeah. It's awesome.
Well, then they did better than I did because I full on cried.
Well,
I believe it.
Yeah. But your cats are an important connection to you. Nix and Thor are your 2 cats that you have. And so it's awesome that the surgery was able to help Nix, and she looks like she's bounced back from that. And it's been really
the only way you can tell now is because she has 3 legs. You can't really miss that. And she still has to get the fur to grow back in.
Yeah. While we're on the topic of cats, then, do you have any nature connections, Karrington, that are your favorite? Do you have pets or anything?
So I wish I had pets. My landlord, unfortunately, does not allow pets. However, cats are my favorite animals, just in general, whether it be, domestic cats, cheetahs specifically. I love cheetahs the most. And little known fact, the Cincinnati Zoo, which is where I live here in Cincinnati, Ohio, has the fastest cheetah in captivity in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder how they tested that.
So yeah. I don't know. They've got videos, and they said they had Guinness Book of World Records on site, and it's in the books now. So didn't
the Bengals have one of their wide receivers race a cheetah?
That I'm not aware of. I'm not a Bengals fan, so I don't follow them very much.
Okay.
I know somebody did.
Okay.
Derek in the chat said, in fairness, I don't think any of my landlords would let me have a cheetah. No, I don't think so.
That's fair. That's fair. If I could have a domestic cat, it'd be a Savannah cat, which is a hybrid cat.
Yeah.
And they're really big and large. You have to treat them almost like dogs, which I think is fascinating and really cool.
Yeah.
And which are legal in Ohio because they're not legal everywhere.
Oh, interesting. Do you get to go to the Cincinnati Zoo very often to see the cheetah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure. My job gives me 4 free tickets to the zoo every year. So I get to
Awesome.
go, which is a lot of fun. Yeah.
That is cool. Cool. Well, I was going to save that question till the end, but it's very awesome that you've got some nature connections there. It's all good. I'm a cat person too. I have Shadow, and like we were saying before we came on live, he's not going to make it for the Sunshine Summit. He's not one to appear live on things and participate. But yeah, he's a favorite nature connection of mine. I listened to a couple of the July extravaganza episodes that you had, and there was one sort of like a behind the scenes wrap-up story of how Real Dudes came about. And there was a game that you used to do, I think, called Name a Video Game, where you used to have like a video game and whatever the first letter of it had to be the last letter had to be the first letter of the next video game that you named.
Yeah, so like if I asked you a question, or if we'd start with A, you do A, then Chris would have to come up with however that title ended, the last letter, then Chris would have to come up with the first letter of the title, Chris would have to come up with it, and then so on and so forth until we can't go anymore, which was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Cool.
It's hard to explain until you hear it.
Yeah, sorry, I munched your head up.
I've done it with band names, and it really is cumbersome to sit there and tell people how to do it. But once you hear it done, it just makes perfect sense.
Cool. So on that note, because this kind of is a theme of gaming and comics today, I want to set this game out there for the chat. If we start with one of us, if you want to, Chris or Karrington, if you want to say a comic or a game, and then the chat can come up with ideas to carry on that game while we're talking. But also, if anyone in the chat has questions for Karrington or Chris while we're here, please do put them in the chat. Yes, Xander for comics too. So it doesn't have to be a game. It could be a comic or vice versa. So, yeah. Karrington, do you want to suggest a name of a game?
Sure. I will start with, I'm trying to think of a letter that might be easy here, and I will say Super Mario Maker. So you got R.
Cool. So anyone come up with a comic or a game that starts with the letter R? That'd be awesome. Chris, you've had some amazing connections that you've made on the show, and you were saying that you had to read a book to have you were going to interview the author. That one hasn't come out yet, or has it?
No, I just recorded that one yesterday, so that'll
Cool.
be out in the next few weeks probably.
Okay, cool. We have Xander has come back with Rawhide.
But
Kid.
if anybody wants to check out the book, I will tell you what it is.
Yep, that'd be good. What's the book?
The book it's a biography of Gardner Fox called Forgotten All-Star.
Okay.
By Jennifer DeRoss. She's just somebody that I randomly ran across on Twitter, and it seems like a year ago I just thought, all right, cool, you're writing this book. I mean, all the bonus episodes that I have are either games that I'm never going to cover or people that have come on and created stuff, and not other podcasts because that's too easy. But I've gotten a bunch of people making comics or making games. I'm like, okay, I'll see if I can get her to come on and talk about her book. And she told me when I first asked, no, it's going through editing stuff, I want to get it done, and it's going through just kind of every time I would check, yeah, it's still going through stuff, I want to get it further in. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks ago, hey, the book's about to come out. So, you're the first person who asked about it that still has a podcast. I'll go ahead and give you kind of first dibs on when you want to get the episode recorded.
Yeah.
And then we ended up recording it last night, and it went really well.
Awesome. That is good. I'm glad that the recording went well. It's cool that you made that connection too. Amazing how that came about. In the chat, they're playing the game, which is awesome to see. Just to take a side from that, we had Doom, Daredevil, and Meteoroid in the chat. And then Al, I think, was if we took Daredevil, and we've got Xander who said Logan Legacy. Derek's come up with Yow's Revenge, and then we've got externals. So good work, guys. Thanks for playing along there. I've got a very important question for you, Chris, because you've made a lot of connections with my podcast. I host Sunshine and Power Cuts, and you have a favorite episode. You asked a question when I was a guest on Kate's Ignorance Was Bliss podcast about how many times do I think Chris has shared that episode. And I want to know, how do you make all the connections to be able to share that with so many people? Because it's wonderful that you've been so supportive, particularly of that episode, but of the show in general.
That episode just really speaks to me. It's really good for calming me down from things, or just kind of like a giant mental reset. And I am in a bunch of groups where that's just something that pops up a lot. So, I mean, I've shared it with people there. I've shared it with people that I run across on Twitter. I've shared it with friends that just think that, if they hear it, it'll make their day a little bit better. Kaylee and probably you are a little bit annoyed that I listened to it myself like 4 or 5 times on the drive home the day it came out, which was perfectly fine because traffic was basically standstill.
Yeah. It's a good thing about downloading podcasts, right? Once you've downloaded it, you don't have to stream it again, so you can listen to it as many times as you like. So it's amazing that it has that connection for you. Yeah.
Like, honestly, I got tired of recommending it so much at work that I set up a keyboard shortcut so that all I have to do is type like 7 characters now, and I send the whole link to somebody.
That is amazing. Derek said that you tried to share it with him, then remembered that Derek already subscribes to my podcast. So thank you. Yeah. It's awesome how you find those connections and find people and have something to offer them. Like, if someone's going through something, you've got something to share, and it's amazing that just happens to be, one of those things happens to be that episode. And on that note, though, I want to talk about any challenges that either of you guys have had. We kind of covered this possibly last time, Chris, but for you, Karrington, are there any challenges that you've come across in, say, podcasting, and some of the resources or connections you've had that have helped get you through?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think that sometimes after a while, you wonder if people are listening, if people are actually, they like what you're putting out there. And that was one of my like July extravaganza episodes. I talked about that.
Okay.
I even though I love doing the show, I love talking about, just gaming in general. It doesn't matter what, even though our show is geared towards independent video games, but I just love games in general anyway. So, and then as soon as I put that episode out, I had quite a few people reach out to me, both people that I'm friends with, but just fans also, which, they don't usually reach out to us. They just kind of listen to the show. But I had quite a few people email me, DM me directly, either on like Facebook. Reddit was a place I don't go very often, but I got a DM on Reddit also saying, "Hey, I listened to the show." And I was like, this is so cool. So I just kind of put it out there in an episode itself, and it just kind of lit a fire under me also. Just kind of like, yeah, I'm ready to go set the second half of 2019 again. Let's do this. So that really helped a lot.
That's awesome. And it's amazing when they come out of the woodwork, and especially if you're feeling like a little lonely or what have you, but they are there and they are listening, and it took that and they came out and shared that with you. It's very, very cool.
Yeah. And it's really cool because you see the numbers sometimes. I mean, and I don't care if it gets to reach 1 million hits or 1. It's just the fact that you see people listen. I'm like, are they really listening though? So it never hurts to just kind of put it out there and see what happens.
Yeah. One of the ways that you connect with people or connect with your audience, I guess, I've seen is through like D-Live streaming.
Mm-hmm.
You have D-Live live streaming. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about that too?
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. So I enjoy YouTube. And when I saw that PewDiePie was going to go to this other streaming service called DLive, I'm like, I've never heard of that before. And so I decided to go over there and see what was going on. And I'm like, I like what's over here more than Twitch for a couple of reasons, because Twitch seems to have a bunch of just noise. I like to call it. There's just a lot of people over there, so it's hard to get noticed. DLive was much more. I noticed a lot of people, whether they were big or small, people were not just watching but engaging with the streamers. So we started doing that a few months ago now. I want to say March or April. I can't remember when. We started streaming at least every Monday, and it's great because people that don't listen to our show regularly now listen to the show and come watch us stream on a regular basis now that we have like a consistent schedule now.
Cool. So are you live streaming your podcast on there?
Not all the time, just sometimes. So we right now consistently is Mondays, which we called Minecraft Monday. Cool. So Mondays are Minecraft days. I'm fitting in Wednesdays now where it's me and my brother. We're usually either playing a board game or just something that we enjoy. Like one time we played Rock Band because we love Rock Band. So we played Rock Band. Cool. So Mondays and Wednesdays are pretty consistent right now.
Awesome. On the note of like engaging with people, whereabouts do you engage with your audience? And I'll just take this question to Chris. Whereabouts do you engage with your audience for Play Comics?
Most of mine ends up being on Twitter because it's just such a wide variety of people there. I mean, I've got the Facebook group set up, but a lot of those people are also following me on Twitter. So it's more interaction on Twitter with them in the Facebook group gets, and just in a couple Discord servers that I'm in. But then those get tricky because of just the chat nature of Discord, and you can't really have threads going. But with Twitter, you can hit with Twitter, you can hit up creators of the games and get them talking about it with you. You can find people that have written the comics, get them talking with you. Yeah. And it's just an amazing little place full of like everybody.
Yeah, that is awesome. Twitter has been pretty incredible.
And as Adam says, I mean, pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, I was going to get to that one. I was just going to say that Twitter is this place that I wasn't on before I launched the podcast, and it has been invaluable since then. It's definitely something that I've come to really enjoy in a platform that has been very helpful for making connections. Adam said, where doesn't Chris engage with his audience? Because you're also in a lot of other people's groups as well. So you don't have a Discord for Play Comics, do you? Or do you?
I don't have one set up. I do have a server channels. Yes, a channel over on the Gonna Geek network.
Yeah.
Which is still something I'm kind of trying to get people to use. Because right now it's a lot of, hey, I have a new episode, and then first couple days people will come say stuff, and then it just kind of sits there until the next episode comes out.
Okay. Yeah. Because you are a part of the Gonna Geek network, and I feel proudly partly responsible for that, so there's a connection there, I guess.
Like 95% responsible for that.
Yeah, I highly recommend them as a network. They're really awesome, and I'm glad that worked out and that you're a part of them. And Karrington, you use Discord, and you were telling me a little bit about how you use Discord for the podcast now.
Yeah, so we have, we've been using it more and more within the past year. It's how we actually record the show now, which we didn't before. Whenever we have a guest on, we invite them through Discord now, pretty much exclusively. And now we've had quite a few people in our Discord server now, both past guests and current guests, and just people in general. We've had quite a few fans join here recently also, which is kind of nice. And so it's kind of nice to just have people just kind of come together and see this love for indie games, whether they're in the industry or not, and which is really cool to see, actually. And just shout out to everyone on the Discord server right now. That's just keeping it going right now. We've been paying a bit more attention to it recently, and it was just something that was very quiet for a long time, but then we started paying attention to it, and then it's been kind of going from there.
That's awesome. I personally love Discord. I think it's amazing. I think it's very cool what you can do with it and make it your own space, however you want to, with whatever channels you want, and organize it. And then if you have patrons, you can connect it with Patreon and all of those kind of cool integrations and things. And it sounds like you've got a good integration for the recording that helps you with your show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. And I can't speak highly enough of Discord. And as Chris said earlier, Twitter, those two platforms have been huge for us.
Yeah. So do you kind of use Twitter and like Chris does to reach out to people to have on the show, or is it within your community, or how does it work? Like, how do you reach out to the people?
So if it's for, so that's where Crossbreak compatible. That's where like our group chat is through Twitter actually, which is kind of nice. And then also when it comes to, let's say we have someone on the show, as Chris said, it's easy to just kind of tag them in there, because Facebook I feel is a little bit too personal. You can't always get a person either, if depending on a whole lot of things. Instagram is also kind of like that as well, but Twitter just seems to be like this public forum almost, where people don't care as much if you tag them in things, especially if they're trying to promote something, whether it be a project that they have going on or anything like that. And two, we ended up scoring a guy I'm a fan of as a streamer, as a gamer. He's a huge gamer, and I just asked him on Twitter. I just tweeted at him directly, like, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes? You want to come on the show?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then come to find out, he's a fan of the show, and I'm like that was like the biggest like surprise shock to me. And so we haven't done the interview yet. It's still in a couple weeks away, but I'm excited that just stuff like that just happens organically.
That is very cool. Kaylee mentioned in the chat that, Chris, you're all over social media, which is awesome. You do a lot of great things. And on the note of Karrington's like Mondays and Wednesdays for streaming, you have a special day for Tuesdays, and it's Tuesday today in some parts of the world. What is today special for, Chris?
Yeah. Today is just the day to tell people how great they are, is really the short version of it. So the wonderful Street Fighter movie with Raul Julia, and I don't know, there's the one scene in there where he's telling Chun-Li, I really wanted to call her Agent May because that's the joke in our house, because it's the same actor there. But he's kind of got Chun-Li captured, and she's going on about how, oh, you came and you destroyed my village and you killed my father. And he just sits there and it's like, for you, it was the most important day of your life, but for me, it was a Tuesday. So I'm kind of flipping the whole thing on its head. And, for me, it's absolutely no big deal to tell somebody how great I think they are and how much I appreciate what they do for everyone. But for them, it can just be this really important thing in their life.
Yeah.
Like Heather is wonderful because she goes and she gets us all together, makes all these connections happen, brings all this positivity into the world, and shames me into calling kiwi fruit so I don't sound like I'm eating people. Okay, there. That's as close as I'm going to get to breaking you.
Okay.
And then Karrington, like part of the reason why he's been on the show so much is because I know that I can give him a couple days notice and he'll be ready. I've had to do that a few times where just guests fell through and I needed an episode, and he's the reason why one came out. I know there was one thing, and there was one thing I sent to Xander one day that was just, hey, I forget exactly what the words were, but it was basically, you're a good kid. You're going to grow up and be a wonderful adult. And I wish more people were going to grow up and be like you.
That's very cool that Karrington was able to be there and help you get an episode out. It's awesome to have that support backup network when things go wrong, because things happen. And like Roger couldn't be here today. It was a shame and sad, but we able to carry on. And yeah, I think the Tuesday Thoughts is really powerful because you don't know what's happening for people, and it can really make a huge difference just hearing something genuine and valuable and uplifting, I guess, a positive thing about them from someone else. Thank you, Chris, for being hugely supportive. You're amazing. You've supported the show, like I said earlier, but yeah, for being a bright light and also asking how the weather in my head is, because that's really important, and weather is something that I focus on a lot, living off the grid. So thank you for all that you do. I just want to jump back to the chat just quickly because we had a couple of questions that I missed before, and there was Xander, and Xander asked, Minecraft, what's your favorite minigame on servers, that is?
Oh, yeah, sure. So even though we don't do servers yet on stream, that is something I plan to do later, but I always enjoy a good Hunger Games server that I still will play to today. The original Battle Royale games. None of this Fortnite stuff.
Cool. Kaylee said, I think that his Tuesday thing is Chris's best accomplishment. That's pretty awesome. And I just want to say,
She might be a little bit biased.
She's totally entitled to be, and yeah. She's one of your amazing support people too. It's very awesome that you have each other, and it was really cool to have both of you as part of the summit earlier. Xander said,
I think it's really cool that you guys do a show together as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to happen more.
Yeah,
I've had her on for a few episodes of Play Comics, and Meddling Kids honestly needs to happen more often, and I hate that it's not. Let's just leave it there.
Okay.
Because it needs to happen.
Yeah. She went on and said that I think it's the Tuesday Thoughts thing is an amazing thing that really brightens people's day. Xander said, your good kid video that you made for me, that brother of mine means so much to him. And I don't know what he means by that comment.
I know what he means.
Okay, what does he mean? Sorry.
There are a few different people I sent the message to. So, I mean, he isn't the only person that I've sent it to.
So you sent a good kid video.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So you find an amazing way of connecting things that are going to resonate with someone and mean something to them. That's very, 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 very thoughtful.
And can I say really quick as well, how Chris, whenever you like tag me in that stuff, like it really warms my heart when you do that stuff. And so I usually try and pass it along. It may not be online and Twitter all the time, but I also, if I'm at work or with my family or something, I always say something in return as well to them. So I pass it on. I make sure to pass it along as well.
Cool.
Well, good. I mean, I'm trying to shame everybody into being nicer.
That's not a bad thing.
And you can tell how slow Tuesdays are at work, because if work is slow, I'll get the whole big on like Twitter thread, tag people all over the place. And if work is busy, I don't, like today.
Oh. Well, we've got Ducky in the chat. Ducky says hello. Hello and welcome to the chat, Ducky. It's a ridiculous amount of time in the morning for him in Russia. So thank you for being here. What else do we have? I wanted to say I didn't mean to shame you into saying kiwi fruit, but I just wanted to clarify because kiwis are people and kiwi fruit is different. And we had a quick chat about this before, but I think all three of us like kiwi fruit or have eaten kiwi fruit at least.
Yes.
Yeah. And doesn't matter which way you eat it. I'll just say that.
Although I think I'm the only one of us that eats the skin.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. You and Paul are the only ones that I know that eat the skin, but that's okay.
I didn't even realize that was a thing.
I just tried it one day because why not? And it's really not bad. I totally understand why some people wouldn't want to eat the skin. But for me, a lot of it is that I bring them to work. So if I eat the skin, I don't have to have silverware.
On that note, I can tie this back into something else. Andrew from Podcasters said fork, knife, stuff for life instead of Fortnite. So there's cutlery and Fortnite all in one, making random connections. Sorry. Ducky asked, Chris, I have a question. Are you going to make a Darkwing Duck comics episode soon? Or at all?
I don't know. See, my problem there, the main part of the show is if it was a comic first, which Darkwing Duck wasn't.
Okay.
That being said, bonus episodes are for doing whatever I want.
Yeah.
It
I
could
was about to
happen.
say, I thought I saw Darkwing Duck on the list of bonus stuff you could come on the show for.
We
I
could
thought. I
definitely
could be
make it
wrong.
happen. Yeah, I don't have a list for bonus things.
Okay.
An official one anyway. I might have sent you a list of things at some point of things I was thinking about. But I mean, bonus episodes are for doing things that are tangentially related to the show, but technically shouldn't really fit.
Yeah, it was really interesting talking to Chris Green earlier in the Sunshine Summit because he said he left the Gravity Beard podcast open with his format to be able to try different things and give people a little bit of a place to try their things as well for a couple of episodes and then they can move on. Do you have a bit of flexibility in your format, Karrington, or does it kind of follow a main theme?
So we have two different kinds of episodes that we release. So we have our main show where everybody gets on.
Yeah.
That has a very specific format that we follow when we do those kinds of episodes. We've been doing it since the beginning. Even we change things a little bit year to year, but it's ever so slightly. So normally the format is episode review, news, and then like an off-topic discussion. So those release every 2 weeks. And then in between those, we do what we like to call mini episodes. They're short form episodes. They're not usually an hour long. It's usually 10 to 15 minutes. Those are usually just me and Kyle as well. And we talk about whatever we want on those things. So we just kind of serve two different people who might listen to the show. And at the same time, we still get to talk about things that we normally wouldn't talk about when everyone's there, which is kind of nice too.
That's cool. Can I ask, have you had any challenges sort of connecting with each other for when you're all on the episode together?
Yes. So my brother, even though he lives right next door to me, he has a wife. She does have some health issues. So there's times where he has to bail out last minute to take care of her, which is understandable.
Yep.
There's times where, so my brother-in-law, Andrew, he's a farmer. So there's times, certain parts of the year, he's just unavailable. He's just not. So right now he's in. So, but normally, like when it's spring and fall time here, those are no-nos. And then Kyle has a 2-year-old. Yeah, she's 2 now. So that has its challenges in itself as well.
Yeah. I take my hat off to anyone who can connect with a large group of people and bring them all together to be able to record at the same time. That's amazing. But that you have that time to catch up with each other then would be quite cool when you can get together and do that. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And if one person can bail out, or if one person does bail out, we usually continue on.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. So we can, because we do stick to a kind of a schedule. But if more than say 3, then we just kind of cancel it and reschedule it from there.
Fair enough. I've got a question for the two of you. Chris, if you want to go first, what is one of your favorite connections that you've had through Crossplay Compatible or with Karrington or Roger or Real Dudes Podcast, Gamerheads? Yeah.
Just everybody that I've been able to get on the show that's part of Crossplay Compatible is probably the main thing. I know I had Roger on for an episode. I had Mike from the Controller Throwers on for an episode. That is one of the most downloaded episodes I have. Karrington with his 6 appearances, been on the show more than anybody who doesn't live in my house. And I think technically more than Kaylee now too.
Yep. We counted. I haven't been on more than Kaylee now.
Wow.
I mean, just the fact that I know that I have them that I can bounce ideas off of. I'm pretty constantly showing Karrington something I've made for the website or plans for something, or, hey, do we want to see if we can throw an AMA episode together? That kind of thing. It'll probably happen. Oh
yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm pumped for that.
That's cool. And how about you, Karrington? What is one of your favorite connections that you've had through your show, your podcast, or with Chris, or Crossplay Compatible, or all of the above?
It's kind of hard to pick a favorite. I do like the fact that I'm able to have friends. It just seems if this was, say, 15 years ago, to say you've made close friends over the internet was kind of weird, but that seems to kind of be my normal thing now for the past 5 to 7 years or so. So it's just kind of cool to just kind of expand my group of friends in so many ways, whether it be through Chris, who's not too far from me. I think, Chris, you're no. Better Than Static is closest to me in Kentucky, which I've met up with them a couple times down in Cincinnati, because that's not too far for everybody.
Yeah, you
But
keep getting me.
What's that?
You keep getting within an hour of me.
I know. I always ask Chris all the time, like, hey, how close is this city to you? Because I know you're in one of the Carolinas. You're in North Carolina, right? Because I always forget. South. Okay, see, I always forget. But it's always just within an hour of Chris for whatever reason. But it's gonna happen. You watch, it's gonna happen. I've also made connections outside of crossplay compatible, out of people that we've already mentioned. So I'm actually headed to Minnesota here in a month and a half to hang out with a couple friends that are in that area, which I'm very excited to do.
Awesome.
It's just so cool to see that this, because of the show, just the show in general, the people I've gotten to talk to. I've talked to a couple of childhood heroes of mine, which is still blows my mind.
Yeah.
That I've talked to these people and have had them on the show, and I still can't believe it. But it's exciting to think about it, and excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one that I completely feel horrible that I didn't mention. A lot of how I play the games is emulation, which, yes, legal gray area, whatever. I'm not going to pay $50 for Return of the Joker to play it for one episode of a podcast. The person who introduced me to emulation was my 8th grade English teacher's son, who went to college across the street. That guy grew up to be comics writer and major internet knower of Batman things, Chris Sims, which I did not realize until I had him on the show. Like, I asked him because of all the Batman stuff, and I had him on for an episode about Batman. And then I was listening to another show that he was on, and he mentioned being around a place that I grew up for a few years. So I'm like, all right, cool. Just told him right before we started, hey, that's really cool that you mentioned little Sumter, South Carolina, that nobody seems to know about at all. And he's just, wait, you know Sumter? Yeah. Well, where'd you go to school? Alice Drive in Sumter High. Wait. Do you know my mom? And I'm sitting there for a second. It's like, oh crap. I don't think I ever actually told him that I knew his mom, because the next thing out of my mouth was, you're the one who introduced me to emulators. And it's just so cool how I have this weird little connection that came about mostly just because I happened to listen to the right podcast that he was on. Because if I hadn't have listened to this other show, it's called Chris is on Infinite Earths. Everybody should go check it out. It's wonderful, and it's safe for work.
Cool.
Double bonus.
Yep.
But if I hadn't have been listening to that, I wouldn't have heard him mention Sumter, and I never would have known that the guy who introduced me to emulators grew up to be a comics writer, and I would have had him on my show and never known that we had this other connection.
That is very, very cool. And I'm glad that you worked that out, because that's an amazing story to have. On the note of emulations, Ducky asked, Chris, did you ever think about building a retro pie thingy just for emulations?
No, only because I have this beautiful Xbox that I'm going to mod, and that will be my emulation machine.
Okay. I haven't got
Very
into
nice.
emulations as such, but one thing that I did pick up recently was the Atari Flashback Gold console thing that has the preloaded games from Atari on it, because Atari was this big thing back in my childhood. I used to play it when I went to visit my grandma I don't actually know the story of how she had one or why she had one, but I just remember playing it when I went to visit her on a holiday. And so the nostalgia thing was massive, and it happened to be on sale at EB Games recently. So I picked that up, and I've had not a lot of time to play it yet, but I'm excited to maybe after the Sunshine Summit wind down and connect with some of the old games that I remember playing. Just going to be a lot of fun.
Well,
So
I mean, if we didn't have crazy like plug differences and voltage differences, I'd send you a modded Xbox.
My dad used to fix Xboxes. I don't know if he modded them or anything, but he used to at least fix them if they needed fixing for people. And he had one, I think it was when they were new on the market, and he wouldn't let us play it. Like, I get that he was fixing it for someone else,
That's
but
not very nice.
you've got to test these things.
Exactly. You got to test them out.
Yeah. So I never ended up having an Xbox, but my sister went on that bandwagon, and she's had a couple of them now. I had a Nintendo Wii and like a PSP and stuff like that, but yeah. And the Atari, that's about my gaming experience, really. Yeah.
I always say there's always a game for everyone out there. They just haven't discovered it yet if they don't know it themselves.
Yeah. That's
exactly.
Awesome. I also wanted to just touch on quickly that it's awesome that you focus on the indie games too, because like indie podcasting, that's something I'm pretty passionate about. We're all these amazing people that make these amazing things, and it's cool to share them and raise awareness about them to help get them out there. So that's really cool. Just before we wrap up, I want to shoot it to the chat again if anyone has any highlights that they've had with Karrington or Chris, or any questions for them before we wrap up. That would be awesome. I now just lost my train of thought. That's really good. Banjo in the chat said, agree, there's a game for everyone. He's not a huge gamer, but his recent game is Thimbleweed Park. Have either of you played that?
I have never played this game. Now I'm interested in it.
I haven't heard of that one, but I'm also really far behind on gaming.
Okay. It's pretty fun. Derek said, on the topic of games, Karrington, what's your favorite indie game that you think is underrated?
That list is large, but if I were to pick one that I would suggest to people, it's a game called Rime, Rime, by Tequila Works. They're from Spain, which you don't hear too many developers coming out of Spain. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's about a boy that crash lands on a island. And the really unique thing about the game is that each stage is completely different from the last one because it's going through the stages of grief. So just keep that in mind when you play it.
Okay, cool. I have maybe one connection suggestion, maybe if you had time to check it out, Karrington, but Ducky in the chat has a podcast called Duck and Games where he is going through game design and things, and you've listened to it, Chris? You've checked out Ducky's?
I have a few of them.
Yeah.
I want to check this out.
Stuff.
Yeah, so maybe for everyone in the chat who's into games too, there's another one to check out. Ducky's a great supportive person of Sunshine and Power Cuts, and he was actually part of one of the Sunshine Summits as well. He did ask a follow-up question. Did you ever play Kathy Rain, Karrington?
I have never played Kathy Rain, but I'm looking at it right now, and I will put it on my list because my point-and-click adventure games are lacking right now. So I do need to add a few because I feel like that's a lost art right now in modern gaming.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bandrew, but is Thimbleweed Park point and click too? If he's still there. Derek's played Rime and it's amazing, so that's an awesome
that's great
to check that out. And yeah. Derek has a question which I kind of want to take in sort of a little bit differently, but you asked a question of Chris, what he would do to entertain at a party, and the question was, are you available for parties? So, question for both of you, if you were entertaining at a party, what would you do to be the entertainment? Chris.
Yes. Chris, you go first.
Sorry.
Well, I would be Carrington's manager and get him to the party. I am a very sit around on the side and pet the dog kind of person. So I would probably make the food, or I would get the music ready to go or something like that, because me being on stage is not really something there. And as a big surprise to Derek, I do not know how to make balloon animals.
Oh. Neither do I, really. So, what would you do,
Well, that leaves
Karrington?
Karrington, because one of us has to know how to make balloon animals.
This is true. It's
Okay.
it's the life of a party.
There you go. Bandra agrees. Music, food, and petting dogs sounds like his kind of party. And Thimbleweed Park is a point-and-click adventure game made by the folks who made Monkey Island.
Okay,
Oh.
yeah, I'm sold.
Yes, me too, because that's a LucasArts game. Well, Monkey Island was, so I'm sure they have made their own company now.
It is really cool. I have checked out Thimbleweed Park. It's awesome. Different elements too if you play through it on the different levels, which is really cool. They kind of have just the generic get to know how to play kind of level, and then that harder level has got a bit more to it, which is awesome. Adam's with you on making and serving the food, and I didn't catch, what would you do, Karrington, for the party?
That's a good question. I am not a good musician, but I am a musician. So I probably would play the piano, because I feel like the drums are not a very good party thing or skill to show off. So I'd probably play piano.
Drums
for people to kind of get. Yeah. I've done it before, and people are kind of just like, oh yeah, that's cool. But when I take a piano or like a small keyboard or whatever, people are more amazed by it, I should say, or impressed.
Okay, cool. That's awesome that you have a music connection. I didn't know that. And Derek has asked, Drum Circle podcast a barbecue. I'm down.
Yes.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
Cool.
Wait, no, I have to ask Derek, because he lives up in Northwest. When you say barbecue, do you mean hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill, or are you talking proper slow-cooked meat?
That is a good
question.
question.
When I think of barbecue, I think of like, ribs and things like that. That's my kind of barbecue.
See, there we go. I mean, if we're talking hamburgers on the grill, that won't be quite as exciting. If we're talking like dig a pit and cook a pig down in the hole, then we're talking.
I find that fascinating how barbecue means so many different things, because like here a barbecue is literally when you cook on a barbecue. It's like anything that you cook on the gas, like on the grill thing outside, is a barbecue. Stephanie says yum pit pig. Ooh. We have here, like, the traditional way of cooking is called a hangi, which is awesome, where you cook it in the pit and cover it over, and it kind of steams the food, which is really cool. I do have a thing here for how everyone can connect with each other, so thank you for popping your Twitter handle in there, because the ones that I have on this page are just for the podcast. So if you want to connect with Karrington on Twitter, you can do it at DesertFury90. But if you want to connect with Real Dudes, they are Real Dudes on Twitter, Instagram, The Real Dudes Podcast on Facebook, and realdudespodcast.com. And for Chris, you can find him at Play Comics on Twitter, Instagram, and the official Play Comics page on Facebook, and playcomics.com. Yeah.
And for me, the Twitter handle is essentially my personal one, because I tried having both, and they were pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, I have one, but I...
I'm sorry.
You go. No, you go. Sorry.
I was just going to say, because Kyle and I do our like social media stuff all the time. So it got confusing when both of us would handle the Real Dudes podcast handle. So I then just created my own for my own personal stuff.
Fair enough. Yeah. Thank you for both being here today and sharing your stories. It was awesome to talk with you so much. It was awesome to meet you, Karrington, for the first time.
Likewise.
Yeah. And I highly recommend that everyone check out the Real Dudes podcast. Check them out on live streaming and see what they do on Mondays and Wednesdays. And check out the Play Comics. Check them out on the Gunna Geek Network. Have a look, because there's a bunch of other stuff there too. But definitely go ahead and check out the channel on that server for the Play Comics show. And looking forward to hearing the thing that's coming out. The Forgotten All-Star was the name of the book. Is that right, Chris?
Right.
Yeah, so Chris has talked to the author of that book, which would be awesome to hear that story. And for everyone who was in the live chat today, amazing to see you. Thank you for your questions and for playing the name of video game. You guys did really well. That went on for a little bit in the chat. And yeah, thank you for being part of the Sunshine Summit, celebrating connections. And I look forward to seeing everybody next time. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.